Hello, my name is Nanette Sage, and I would like to run for President of the United States. I don't have the money to try to run. I have no political experience. In fact, all of my experience is limited to as close to zero as you could possibly get with regards to politics. But the logic behind my desire to run is stemmed by my lack of seeing things happen that should happen, and so therefore I'm going to share my hopes and what I would like to achieve. I only say what I'd like to achieve because I have seen how challenging it is for even those that have a lot of political experience. I've seen how challenging it is for them to make things happen. And so, but the things that would be driven were I president. So, if there's people out there that agree with my philosophies, ideas, drive, desires, hopes, whatever you want to call them, if you've got money and you want to promote me to be the president and you know how to get me in there, I'm willing to try to take on the responsibility. So let's get into it. There's the camera. Let's get into it. I see that a lot on videos. I think the first thing that I am driven to is I want to tax the rich. I want to tax them thoroughly and heavily, because we need that money to make the changes that are needed to make this a better country and to make it a better world. So yeah, I'm poor, so I am not beholden to anybody that has money. You know, if I become president, if you're rich, you ain't getting any more favors after I'm president as you are at this very moment in time. Again, it's because we're gonna need money to make things happen, to make a lot of stuff happen. So that's number one, taxing the rich. Now, what is the tax plan for the rich? Well, I like Winston Negron's fast tax plan, and that's what I am most likely going to implement, that structure. Second, we're going to be taking away the ability for corporations to have the rights of a citizen. The corporation is a business, and the realities are corporations should not have the rights of a citizen, and it's pretty unfair if one global corporation has rights in the United States because it happens to, have its home office in the United States, perhaps, yet another one that's in China that and it doesn't have those rights. It's like, how do you even decide what rights? It's like, oh, did that corporation immigrate to the U.S.? And what are the restrictions of the U.S. corporations that they can have citizenship, but yet other corporations can't? So yeah, we're getting rid of the rights, that whole citizenship for corporations. And again, the taxing is going to be on the wealthy, on the corporations. We're going to bring in. The goal is to bring in a ton of money back into the U.S. And here's a primary reason why. I'm going to implement a federal standard for education for public schools. This will not be implemented for voucher schools. This will not be implemented for private schools. The money is going to be towards public schools, schools that are controlled and owned and developed, and everything that has to do with being a public school. The monies are going to go towards that educational structure. I want my goals. Again, these are goals. These are not promises. I'm not saying, I'm promising that I'm going to do this. I don't like to make promises I can't keep. These are goals. These are what I'm going to be driven for. I want a maximum class size of 10 students. That's it. Maximum. That means, if some school gets special, sign-offs from their state saying they can have more students, nah, you won't have above 10. Forget it. It ain't happening. That's the federal maximum any state can have is 10 students in a classroom, which means you got to hire more teachers, which also means you need to be able to pay those teachers. And it also means opening up more schools, expanding on the schools, and going from there. Now, here's the logic behind that. A smaller classroom size gives a teacher more opportunity to develop a rapport and a bond with their students, in which case they will be able to come across to their students with that which needs to be taught. The students will have gotten more guidance from that teacher, they will get more attention from that teacher, and they will have more opportunity to learn. Now, I said a maximum class size. The recommended class size that I will have is going to be 6 students per teacher. 6 students. I also will be recommending that we try to implement a structure where students will have the same teacher for a certain amount of years straight. So let's say like the kindergarten teacher, this is the kindergarten teacher and this is the first grade teacher and this is the second grade teacher. My desire is you will have a teacher and they will take those kids that would be in the kindergarten level, and then they will have them in the first grade level, and they will have them in the second grade level, and they will have them in the third grade level, and then they will pass them on to the teacher that takes over that class, and that teacher will do the 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. That teacher will then pass them on to the next. I feel that a single teacher teaching the same students throughout that kind of a process, again, will have a greater, more powerful rapport with those students. Now, the students can transfer classes. They can go to a different teacher. I want to go and learn and be under Miss Sage. I want her as my teacher. The schools will have to work that out, because obviously some teachers might be more favored by students and some might not. I don't know. That'll be up to the school and how they structure it. But I think that would be something that would be really ideal, is having the same teacher for a certain point for a certain number of years. Again, if you have the ideal classroom size, we're looking at 6 students. 6 students with 1 teacher. And if they're really, really lucky, they might even have an aide. And they have 6 students, a teacher, and an aide. Oh my God, how can you get much better than that? So that's education. That's how I see education. It needs to grow. It needs to have more focus. Now, a lot of people are saying teachers are underpaid. They are underpaid. They are underpaid, and so their wages have to be reevaluated. But we also, maybe, if it's possible, if they have to have a good living wage, but we have to have structure for them to have more resources. We also probably should do something for the teachers, and that's going to lead to the next thing that I want to do. So now we know the teachers and we know education, and we want more schools, more teachers, smaller classroom sizes, potentially higher wages, more resources. But teachers like firemen and EMT and police, all these people in positions of great necessity to help us keep us safe, help keep us, alive and healthy, and all those other wonderful things. Those social service type of positions, that they service the community, they need to be rewarded. And wages is always a wonderful way to reward people, but another way to reward them might be things that are going to help them to buy a house, to buy a car, to other things, stuff like that. So, we need to look into those options and look into those ways to give teachers, it's like, okay, yeah, you're not making the most money in the world. Maybe, hopefully you're going to be, we want to get your wages up, but, you might not be, competing with, someone else, a doctor or something, a surgeon. But, you know, maybe we can help you buy a house and help you with your mortgage so that stress, the stress of life, is not going to bear down on you so much. That's what I'm thinking. With regards to the school years, I think 3 months straight off, no, that needs to end. I think increments of 3-week breaks would be more ideal. I think it'd be more ideal because a 4-week break for kids, that fourth week, they lose a lot of what they've learned, and it's like a big drive to pull them back in. 3 weeks, by the end of that third week, they're ready for some change, and that's perfect. So a 3-week break, not a 4-week break or a 3-month break. Just a 3-week break, I think, is best. You'll have multiples of those. Again, by bringing in a lot of additional funds, we're able to also start giving schools opportunities to present after-school programs that will be for families that that want or need additional assistance for their kids while they're still at work, or they're single parent families, things like that. Also, those additional funds need to take care of the fact that kids aren't getting fed properly. So instead of kids having this oh, your parent didn't pay, whatever, you don't get any food. No, kids need to have food. So we need to have a program that's going to give all the children a proper meal, whether it's breakfast and lunch, and even an after-school meal of dinner if necessary. We need to try and look into implementing this. Children, our future are the kids. Our future are the children. And the less concern we have for them, the less we're concerned about our future, and that's not a good thing. So all those additional funds are going to go towards that. Now, with regards to the fire departments, police departments, EMTs, they need heavier funding, not lesser funding, but heavier funding. But I'm not talking about heavier funding for, bigger weapons and more ammunition and more powerful this and more. No, we need to hire. We need to implement a program to hire more people, because in my personal opinion, every police officer out there should have a partner with them. Every single one. You should not be having a patrol car driving around a neighborhood with one officer. Every single officer should have a partner with them. And there should be enough police that if a partner calls in, there should be someone that can come assist or be their partner that day or whatever. Every officer should have a partner. I also firmly believe that if weather permits, or during the periods that weather permits, we should have a lot more police, out there walking in certain areas and certain territories that are, we'll still have patrol cars, but we should have police on foot with partners walking a route as well. So certain, neighborhoods that are more prone to be vulnerable, we'll use that way to describe it. More vulnerable neighborhoods would have police on foot. They can even be having bicycles. With those officers, could have bicycles, electric bicycles, and they'll be walking those electric bicycles most of the time. They can ride the electric bicycles in certain areas. There's still going to be patrol cars. I do not see this as a replacement. That's where a lot of those extra funds are going to go towards making our environment safer. Same with fire departments. Fire departments, a lot of people have different opinions on firemen, But the fact is, when you need them, you need them. And fire departments should be able to go throughout the neighborhoods, and they should be testing every fire hydrant. They should be testing all the emergency stuff that goes on that pertains to what they got to do. And so we need more fire departments, more firemen, and we need to give them enough so that some could be out there doing things out there on the road. They're not just sitting in the department. You know, you could have different kinds of vehicles in the fire department, so it's just you have your crew that's going to go put out fires, and you have your MTs and your medical guys and all that. But you could also have, you know, some other vehicles that they're using and utilizing to go test fire hydrants and to go, you know, meet with schools and to interact with the neighborhoods that they're going to be servicing. Because, you know, other than seeing them in a store, I've never met any of the fire department people in my own community, you know, and I go shopping and stuff, but I've never even seen them come up our street except for an emergency, you know. And it would be really nice if the police and fire had enough people to be able to build that stronger bond. And especially in cities where crime in some cities is rampant, you have officers that have enough bodies, enough people they can patrol, then those misdemeanors that take place also might be able to get addressed, or more to the point, they may not even happen, you know. So fire departments, EMTs, police, teachers, all that. My education, as I said, you know, we need more schools. So, you know, those are some of the factors that I see as super important. I also feel that the U.S. needs a national aqueduct. Now, bear with me here. If we had an underground national aqueduct that was spiderwebbed all over the U.S., everywhere, then those parts of the U.S. that are getting flooded, like New York got those rains and it was flooding like there's no tomorrow. If that water could have been pumped into that national aqueduct, then states that are desperate for water could be putting that water to use. Even more importantly, if you have states like Montana, they might even be able to build some kind of underground water reserve structure to connect to that water reserve, so that instead of the U.S. experiencing droughts on the west that were astronomically long, 10, 15 years, then we're talking California, we're talking Oregon, we're talking parts of Washington, we're talking Arizona, we're talking Nevada, you know, even tapped into Texas. All those territories would have water. And so what we need to do is we need to implement some kind of a program to build some kind of a machine that's going to bore holes through the ground to make this underground national aqueduct. The beauty of the national aqueduct is not only are you putting people to work, so you're getting jobs, but you also have to have water pumping stations. So you're always going to have, and you're going to have a lot of them. Every state's going to have them. Some states that have a lot of water, maybe they could even sell their water to the states that need water. If you know, and think about it. If we all have water everywhere, then we have agriculture everywhere, and now we have food for not only all of the people in the U.S., but we can also export and sell all that food. That'll bring our national gross national product way up. And then a national aqueduct, spiderweb throughout the U.S., opportunities are boundless. You could have, you know, water reaching even the darkest, driest places in the world. In addition to this national aqueduct, I'd like to implement a plan that buildings and homes need to start being earth covered. Now, they don't have to be earth covered 100% right off, but I would like to work into that, and here's why. Earth covered. Now, I'm not saying we're going down deep into the ground like some kind of mole or, you know, Hobbit Hill everything, which Hobbit hole homes, homes in a hill, incredible idea. But we need to get back. We need to give back a lot of the earth back to nature, massive amount of earth back to nature. So instead of going up higher and spreading out and taking over the land with buildings and cities and homes and everything, we need to start either building them and then cover them, so that we can give that land back, so that the top of those buildings are growing grass and bushes and trees, and they're growing in such a way, and it's landscaped in such a way that animals can utilize those areas. Your home could be built. We on the West Coast and in the U.S., primarily in the U.S., we build stuff with wood like there's no tomorrow because we had and have so much forest. There's no reason to be building everything with wood. The greatest resource we have available to us is the earth. We could be doing bricks and stone. We could be building everything under. Now, granted, the West Coast has the earthquakes, and other parts of the U.S. have earthquakes. Yes, they do. But those buildings could still be done so that they're not as vulnerable to collapsing from the earthquakes if built correctly. Not only that, but if we start going earth covered, we're bringing down the energy usage. Homes will be more thermal protected. They'll have a cooler summer and a warmer winter with a lot less energy use, which will bring down the energy use, and it'll reduce the amount of materials, resources to heat those homes, and we don't have to cover everywhere with solar panels, and we don't have to have power, all kinds of nuclear power plants and coal plants and, everything, because it's going to be a lot less energy. On top of that, our country will become more green. The whole country can slowly evolve into a much more green environment. Another thing I want to do, one of my goals, is to invest massive knowledge base into vertical farming. Vertical farming, people are like, oh, all you do is grow lettuce in vertical farming. We're not going to be rabbits. That's not true. Okay, vertical farming is utilizing a resource that uses way less water for a lot of plants. But vertical farming also means that you can be in an environment that's more efficient. And you can have also underground, not just vertical. Vertical could be floors. Doesn't have to be everything's growing on a big pole or on a wall or on plats that, it could be a floor. You could have a floor full of trees. You could have, there's, look at your cities. You've got skyscrapers that are like warehouses in some cases. So you could have that, and you could have, under the earth, underground, you could be growing your crops. You could have a whole orchard of cherry trees on one floor, and you go down the elevator, and then the next floor could be oranges, and the next floor could be lemons. This needs to be implemented, and this needs to be implemented because we need to give back as much of the earth back to nature as we can. We need to open up as much land as we can back to the animals, to the insects. We need to get away from pesticides as much as we can. We do vertical farming, and we can cut back massively on pesticides and chemicals and all that. The pharmaceutical industry is going to say, "Oh, this ain't going to work. We don't want to do this. We don't," because that's a big part of their money. But the reality is, we gotta get away from this whole do everything for money and don't worry about how the earth's doing. Hey, I'm old. Okay, let's be frank. I'm old. I got gray hair. Okay, I'm going to be 60 in August. So I got 40, 30, 40, 50 more years if I'm lucky. Okay? But the reality is, if I don't have children. So why do I really need to care? No, I don't need to care, but I do care. I care a lot. I care a lot because the earth is beautiful and we have a future for the children. We need to take care of the animals. The earth is, we humans are not the pinnacle. We are part of the process. And I know this because when you die, you're gone, your body's gone. Okay, if you want to believe you got a soul that goes somewhere else, that's great. You want to believe you're reincarnated, you're going to be reincarnated to a really problem situation. If you're not trying to fix it now, you're going to come back, and it's going to even be worse when you come back to the next round if you believe in reincarnation. But the fact is, we're all stardust. We're all going to be part of whatever it is that makes this rock. And some of us might try to get out of here. Like Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. That's fine, but at some point, they're all going to die. And their body's going to, whether it's entombed or whatever it is, the body's going to deteriorate into whatever it turns into. And if you put it under the ground, you're part of the earth. That's, you started from the earth and you go back to the earth. We need to take care of this earth. We need to give it the love and tender care that it deserves. Vertical farming will do that. A national aqueduct would pump water everywhere. We could have entire communities living on an under-earth community in Death Valley, and they could be producing massive amounts of food using underground vertical farming, and they could have the water they need to survive in Death Valley because it's all pumped through an underground national aqueduct, because you don't necessarily have to go walk up on top of the surface to have a good day. You could easily construct stuff that's under the earth, all the way to the point of like practically an Astrodome, because you have the technology is there to do that now. We have that technology. So that's another goal. Another drive is we need to have a much stronger and more positive global footprint. And when I say that, it's part of it is what we can do if we can make the national aqueduct work, if we can make the vertical farming work and the under-earth homes and buildings and life work, then we will have huge amount of resources of food and other stuff to provide to other countries in such a way that it will negate the drive for those people to come to the U.S. because they will have a better life, because we will be able to help them to achieve the same things we have. So you have that as well. I mean, it's insane how positive it can all come out to be. So we need to develop that ourselves and then share it with the world. Africa, there's places Africa the droughts just decimated them. But what would happen if they had been able to develop an underground aqueduct? And what if they started doing more under earth structures? And I'm not talking about here you got this ground, now dig down. I'm not talking about that, because you're vulnerable to some freak of nature rain someday, 100-year rain or something. No, you got to build up. You build the home out of brick, stone, etc. Sandbag it to support it. Whatever you're going to do, however they're built. I'm not an architect, but you build up and then you cover it. You cover that with, you want 6 to 8, 10 feet worth of earth covering the whole thing. You can still have windows, you can still have doors, all that's possible, and still have your home. I mean, you look at architects that have built homes, and it's like, here's this whole thing of earth, and then there's the home, and then it's still up on a hill so they don't go through flooding, but yet they have 8, 10, 12, 15 feet worth of earth on top. And all that earth, it has grass and trees and bushes and all of it. It can be done. It's just the factor we have to fight is greed. And that's part of why the massive taxation is going to take place, because we need to literally take a knife and cut into that greed and carve a part of that greed out and put that greed to our use and turn that greed into survival, turn that greed into growth. So those are some of my hopes. I have all kinds of other hopes, but this video is already a half hour long. So my name is Nanette Sage, and I don't have the money to run for president, but if you are someone that would like to see these kinds of changes happen, and you want to put someone in there that at least has a drive to try to make it happen, contact people that can get me into that office. All right. Thank you, and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.